Today I'm going to talk about rumination, and this is on the back of a clip that I did last week on worry. I figured afterwards, I thought, you know what, I probably need to do another clip on rumination because whilst they are incredibly similar, they are also quite different. But there is a huge overlap. So if you've seen the worry clip, some of what I might say today is similar to what I've said in that worry clip, but there are also some differences. So worry, as you know, I know that you know this, worry is very future focused. We are worrying about hypotheticals, what ifs, certain things that may or may not happen. Rumination is where we reflect negatively in a harmful way on things that maybe did or did not happen. And rumination as a therapist is something that I come into contact with all of the time. So whether I'm working with somebody who presents primarily with depression or anxiety or trauma, rumination is a very common feature. So depression, for example, often people who are depressed, they have gone through some form of a transition. So there's an interpersonal event that has caused them to feel depressed. So perhaps it is a marriage breakdown, a job redundancy, a health diagnosis, a loss. You know, sometimes there are things that cause us to feel depressed, which are incredibly distressing, and we can't help but look over our shoulder and ruminate at length about the thing that happened, the thing that went very wrong for us, or perhaps the way in which somebody behaved towards us. So often rumination is about ruminating and thinking negatively about the harm that somebody else has done to us. But also rumination happens with people where they're blaming themselves. And maybe they did do something that disappoints themselves, that where they feel that like they've let themselves down. But often with rumination, we have clients where they ruminate and they analyze and decide that they've done something wrong or something quite maladaptive, when in reality they haven't. So sometimes we get people where they reflect on a conversation that they had with somebody and they conclude that maybe they came across in the wrong way, that that person must think they're a terrible person, or must think that they're really socially awkward. And their negative reflections actually are quite false, that they're inaccurate. But because people become fixated and start ruminating, they go round and round and round on a merry-go-round, and quite frankly, they start to feel quite sick of the problem. They feel sick of themselves. Or if you know somebody that ruminates, maybe you're feeling quite sick of that person for ruminating. It's quite a difficult thing to sit with when we know somebody or we care about someone who ruminates at length. So rumination, that word, who ruminates? Well, lots of people ruminate, but they shouldn't. The only creature on this earth, I'm sure there's more than one, but the one that we all know and love is a cow. Cows ruminate. If you ever stand and watch a cow, the beautiful creatures that they are, you will notice that cows ruminate. So they chew the cud, they eat their grass, they chew, 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 they swallow, and then they regurgitate, and then they chew some more. And that process repeats over and over again. And for a cow, that happens for a very valid reason. That is how they need to digest their food. Cows can spend 7 or 8 hours a day ruminating. For humans to ruminate, it doesn't help. So humans do not need to ruminate in order to digest or process their distress. It's a default setting for a lot of people, but quite frankly, I have yet to encounter anybody that says, well, you know, I had a really good period in my life where I ruminated at length and it resolved the problem that I had. Excuse my dog in the background. So basically, rumination is the over-analysis of a problem, and sometimes it's something that's happened. We can't undo what's happened. So what is the point in ruminating? Now, at this juncture, I want to acknowledge the value of reflection, and I want to try and differentiate between reflection and rumination, because as a therapist, I am a big believer in reflection. It's something that we do in our training. We try to practice it as people day to day, and we encourage our clients to reflect. You may yourself have been encouraged to do a journal, and certainly when you come into the therapeutic encounter, you are being encouraged to sit in a session and reflect on things that have happened, experiences that you've had. You're encouraged to be self-aware, to look inside yourself, to be quite introspective. But there is a difference between reflection and rumination. So reflection is where we look over our shoulder, we have a think about things that maybe went wrong, whether it's that somebody else has done something to us, or life has chucked us a curveball, or maybe something that we feel that we've got wrong along the way. Yes, we are encouraged to look over our shoulder and take on board what has happened. However, with reflection, we are only encouraging people to look over their shoulder if it means that they can take something valuable from that experience. So what do I learn from that experience? How might I change how I communicate with other people? How might I manage situations moving forward? How can I grow around what has happened in a positive way? So I can't shrink down what happened. I can't undo what's happened. But what I can do is I can look to positively grow around the thing that's happened. So if you're looking to reflect on life experiences or interactions with others, it's a very positive thing. The problem is that rumination is not reflection. So rumination, a bit like what I'm saying about cows, rumination is when somebody, and it happens all of the time in therapy, so we get people coming in to the therapeutic room, the therapy room, and they sit there, and sometimes I become aware 2, 3, 4 sessions into a treatment episode that my client is only ruminating. They're not reflecting, they're not taking things on board and looking for ways to take positive steps or to look for opportunities moving forward. They are literally using a therapy session to sit on a merry-go-round, going around and around and around in circles. And the script is the same. So sometimes I have to bring this into people's awareness and say, I've noticed that when you're coming in every week, we are having exactly the same dialogue that we had last week and the week before and the week before that. And it is literally the same narrative. They come in, it's almost like they're reading it from a script, and it's the same stuff. And very often it's, but why? Why did they do such a thing? Why did my ex-wife or my ex-husband have that affair? Why did they do this? What would possess somebody to treat me in this way? And it's understandable that people do that. We all do it. I've done it myself. But if that's all that you're able to do is ask the whys and the wherefores, very often you won't achieve very much, because often there isn't a satisfactory answer. So if somebody has treated you really badly and you're years down the line of never getting an apology from that person, it's about reaching a stage of acceptance that I probably will never get a satisfactory resolution from that person. They're not going to give me a reason why they behaved in such a way, because quite frankly, it might be that that person isn't a particularly good person. Whatever they say to you, it won't be good enough to satisfy your negative thought process, and it won't be enough for you to take steps in the right direction. Those steps have to come from within, okay? So how do we manage rumination? How do we stop ruminating? Easier said than done. It definitely isn't easy, but first of all, we notice it. We learn to recognize it. So very much like the worry video that I did, you just notice it. You learn to recognize it. And if you feel that you're struggling to recognize when you're ruminating, there may well be somebody in your vicinity that's able to bring that into your awareness. So ask somebody, say, if you notice that I'm ruminating, can you just let me know, give me a nudge, let me know that that's what I'm doing. So first of all, we are learning to notice when we are ruminating, and we name it. We go, I'm ruminating, this is what I do it very, very well. We do it with compassion, like what I said with worry. We notice it, we name it, we recognize I am ruminating. I am looking over my shoulder and I am reflecting to such an extent that this is becoming unhelpful. And then you shift your attention to something present focused. So rather than living in the past, we bring our focus to the here and now. We do something that is enriching, has meaning and purpose. And we maybe even think about, how can I spend my time today? How can I harness my relationships with other people? What can I do today that is positive, that is present focused, and that will serve me well? We look to control the controllables. So we can't control what's happened. We can't control things that have gone wrong. We certainly can't control something that we maybe decide went wrong that actually didn't. So that's particularly valid for people where they start analysing a conversation that they had and they conclude that the other person must think they're an absolute idiot or this, that and the other, because very often it's a very faulty recollection that you have. So you accept, I can't control what did or did not happen in the past, but I can control things today. What can I handle today? What can I manage in a positive way? And if you're going down the avenue of reflection, let's say, for example, you did have an unhelpful conversation last week with somebody and you think, do you know what? I think I was a little bit this or that. Can you go back to that person and not particularly seek their reassurance, but maybe acknowledge with somebody, do you know what? When I had that conversation with you last week, I reflected on it and I wondered if I'd come across as a little bit this or a little bit that. Have that conversation if you need to, but watch out for it becoming a theme where you're always seeking reassurance. But if you feel that there is any merit in having a conversation with somebody or revisiting something with someone, go ahead and do it, because at least you're being proactive and you're being in the here and now. So what we're doing is we are learning to recognize when we are ruminating. It's step number one. It's a very important step. We recognize when we are ruminating. We kind of name it. We know that it's rumination because we're looking over our shoulder. We do something that's present focused and meaningful. And I will have another clip on things that can be meaningful and present focused. We look at grounding techniques. We shift our focus away from the rumination. And if we can turn that rumination into a reflection where we take something positive from it and we look at how do I grow around what went wrong, by all means, we do that. We take positive steps in the right direction. So what I will encourage you to do is reflect on the things that I've said today. I've just spent 13 minutes rambling on at you. Reflect on it. If there's anything that I've said that you disagree with or that you want to revisit, let me know and we'll take things from there. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.